morning. It is May 29th, 2025, and this is the Board of Directors meeting for the Maryland Environmental Service. It is currently 9:32, and we do have a quorum at this time. We are going to start with the Inspire Awards. Mr. Lipinski.
Ma'am, so I think this Inspire Award, I'm going to call this the Rocky Gap Adventure, the great adventure, according to Mark Kaiser. Because anything Mark Kaiser does becomes quite an adventure from that perspective. Rocky Gap, we had the plant was in service, and the polymeric membrane started to delaminate, and we had some different discussions with the manufacturer, and ended up with an agreement where we would replace the polymeric ceramic membrane. So Mr. Kaiser, he comes up, and Ms. Cordogua and Mohammed, we all get together, and they're going to take a trip to Kentucky, Belfry, Kentucky, to see a plant down there that has the same membranes. So they jump in the car and they drive down there, and they do their due diligence and get everything ready. We start looking at the designs that we got from the manufacturer, and then the three of them, plus they just all started doing design, redesign. We brought in an A&E to help us with this. And we finally got to a place where we had the final enhancements and we were ready to go with the replacement. So Mark recruited all the people to start working on helping get this stuff installed. And I did talk to them a little bit ago. We had breakfast in the lunchroom here, and they all said they went along willingly. They weren't voluntold. They went along willingly. And so we started with the installation, and there were trials and tribulations. Is that statement? Trials and tribulations. Yes. We had all kind of different membranes, and the ceramics are very rigid, and some of them were bent. Some of them it was quite the task to get stuff in. And once we got them in, and again, we had a timeline. I failed to mention this. We had a timeline to get this done, and that timeline was we were getting ready for seasons, the busy season start up, and we needed to get this train put in, and we got it put in. And then we had to troubleshoot, and we had to do different things. I think we pulled them out. We pulled them out a couple times, back and forth. Yeah. So they became very proficient in installing and reinstalling. So, I'm thinking of putting them on the road and starting to do membrane upgrades at other locations. They become that good at it. But right now, we ended up with a plant that's operating really well, and it's doing a great job. And we even got a Tricon presentation out of this where Ezgi and Mark got to go and show what happened. So I'm really proud of these guys. And the other piece of this thing is, we always look at this, you always hear the phrase, the dream team, teamwork is dream work. Well, this is it. This was a group between this was water, wastewater, and CAS that got together on this. So want me to introduce them and bring them up front? All right. So let's go through the water, wastewater folks first. Kaiser.
Well, you got to get up and shake hands.
And announce it too. Make sure you get good pictures of these. I told him $15 a picture.
Excellent.
Good. Colin.
Do this one? How we doing? I need my note card.
I can't read that far.
I don't know how.
Next one is Ezgi.
Trying to make some room.
Yeah.
Well, now Ezgi's on this side. Ezgi's definitely gonna be in the front row.
Gavin.
Chris. That's the water and wastewater group. Now the folks from TAS, Darren. Hunter? Certainly not least.
Jeff. Sort of board member being pictured. I know, comms direct this.
Please squish in this way. You might have to do two rows.
Yeah, I know. Come on, it's short. Yeah, no shame.
Come on there, because you're short, you'll be fun.
Yes.
Think you're ready to say ceramic membrane.
All right, you got them looking in two different directions,
All
so.
right.
They're playing on now. Oh, no.
Hey, Joe, can you get one with my phone? Hey, man. All right.
Let's come down, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Mr. Botts, this is what you told me, is
I-
trying to get online, but I still don't see it.
Yeah, Casey's working with him. I stepped out to have Casey.
We have Ms. Booker with SB and brief overview.
Okay, are we ready for the
Morning.
next item? Hi, good
Yes.
morning. We have Monique Booker with us from SB and Company, and she is here this morning to go over the FY25 audit plan. Good morning,
Yes,
Ms.
thanks.
Booker.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, it is a pleasure to be with you this morning to discuss our audit plan for Maryland Environmental Service. SB and Company has serviced Maryland Environmental Service in the past in completing the financial statement audit, and it's definitely a pleasure to be back. We did have the opportunity, or I had the opportunity to meet with the audit committee a week or so ago to walk through the plan in detail. So what I thought I would do for the full board is just to highlight certain items as it relates to the audit plan. So if you go to the next slide, we'll talk through these following bullets, but I will really focus on our service and timing and audit approach for today. Okay, so on the next slide are our introductions. I will serve as the engagement partner or that signing partner on the various MES deliverables. I did serve as the audit partner in the past when we worked with MES, and Graylin Smith will serve as our client service partner, who also served as the engagement partner when we last served MES. So again, it's a pleasure. We will have Pamela Gray as our audit partner, and our audit supervisor will be Mina Chantal, who will serve as the leadership team this year for the financial statement audit. And then if you go to the next slide, just a reminder for everyone on what the scope of services that we've been engaged to perform for Maryland Environmental Services. And of course, that's the audit for June 30, 2025. But that also includes our compliance audit. So the federal funding that you receive requires a single audit or compliance audit. So we will also be performing those services. There's also a separate report related to the indirect costs that we will be preparing. And I think just as important as providing, the opinions or the reports for these various items, we're also just a resource to management. To the finance department, to governance. We're now going to reestablish the partnership that we've had in the past, and serve as that resource for you as an organization. So if you go to the next slide, here I'll just spend a little time just reminding everyone of the approach that we follow at SB and Company in order to perform the services that we just spoke about. And we break it down into 4 key phases here. So we've already started in a concluding on our planning phase, where we've had an opportunity to meet with Hammett, his team, to discuss what's been happening with MES that will impact our risk assessment, going through prior year, financial statements, and just taking the knowledge that we have within the industry, some of the new guidance that's out, in doing our preliminary risk assessment. So we now have time scheduled for our next phase, which is what we call our preliminary testing. And this phase is where we really want to focus on understanding the processes that are specific to, to MES, the process owners who's responsible for those processes. So we will be on site in the middle of June to meet with the process owners, really walk through and identify key controls and processes and start to test those controls. So this helps us refine our risk assessment that we've prepared from our planning phase. It allows us to better prepare for the type of substantive testing that we'll need to do in our final phase. And that final phase will take place in the August-September timing. Once MES has closed their books, concluded on their trial balance, we then start our final phase. So that preliminary testing will be concluded by then, and we will be able to, again, kind of finalize that risk assessment and determine what additional testing we need to do to ultimately be comfortable with the numbers in which we're going to provide that audit opinion, and also have concluded on the processes and the effectiveness of those. And we'll be able to report out on that. And I believe it's the November meeting, October, November. And then our last phase is our financial reporting, which includes that report out to the audit committee, to this board, meeting with management, making sure, any issues that have been identified, the facts are correct, and having discussion related to those to make sure that those have been concluded on appropriately. So these are the key phases that we follow as part of that audit process. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see here what that timing is expected to be. So this timing has been discussed with management. We know this timing will allow us to meet the due dates, that MES have in place. So as I mentioned, mid-June, we have our preliminary field work scheduled. Final will be that August-September time, and we would expect to meet with the with the committee to provide any final results and then finalize those reports by the end of October. And on the next slide, I'll just summarize here, probably the last slide that I'll cover in this deck. We've talked about the phases that we follow. SBC, we have a proprietary audit approach. We refer to it as the 4CAM audit approach, focusing on risk, controls, and account misstatement. And I mentioned our preliminary testing is when we're on site to meet with process owners, understand, what are some of those key processes that are in place and whether or not those items are operating. You'll see that that's a significant portion of our 4CAM audit approach. Those first two layers at the top of the funnel, the planning and the assess and test design and operation of controls, that second layer is what our preliminary testing is focused. So again, a lot of information is obtained during that preliminary timing to allow us to, again, narrow down our risk assessment and really determine where our additional testing and substantive approach needs to be tailored based on the outcome of that process. And again, it provides us an opportunity, fresh look, set of eyes to provide any feedback back to management if there are gaps that are identified. And also during that phase, that's when we also get our information technology group involved, looking at the systems that are being relied upon with the in order to generate many of the financial numbers, so that we're really assessing that full control environment. So that's the approach that we will follow for our services for Maryland Environmental Services this year, and look forward to being able to report back to the audit committee and to this board based on the results of our testing and providing our feedback based on the control environment that we would have evaluated by that time. And I won't walk through the remainder slides that you have. It's just some additional information. Again, those were walked through in more detail with the audit committee that just went into more detail on what are some of those specific processes that we will review and be able to report back on. But I can address any additional questions that you may have as it relates to the upcoming audit.
I don't hear any questions or comments.
And our contact information is included in this slide deck as well. So if there are additional comments or questions that maybe you think about later, we're just an email or phone call away.
Thank you, Ms. Booker.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, the minutes from our April 24th, 2025 meeting have been distributed. Are there any comments or amendments to be offered?
No.
All right, hearing none, they are approved by consent. Dr. Glass, good morning. We have the Executive Director's report.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Next slide. Last month, just expenses for lunch under per diem for 2 board members and myself after the lengthy board meeting. Next slide. The highlight of this engagement for the last month, two I'd like to point out. One is, oh, no, I've lost my train of thought. No, the Anne Arundel County Economic Development and the Maryland Department of Commerce, engaging with them in an interest on a pilot gasifier with a nonprofit. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. I directly asked Commerce to help with funding it. So we'll see if they want to engage. And as we get ready for our FY27 capital engagement with the Department of Budget and Management, hopefully we can have some support from the county / the Department of Commerce to support a business that wants to get into gasification of wood waste. And we could probably have some overs from our composting facilities and obviously biosolids gasification. So anyway, that was 2 meetings actually in the month. They were excited, and we'll see if we follow up. And the other is a couple of us, Ms. Fidiagi and Mr. Ford, met with a medical doctor from Capital Digestive Care where they have a interest in medical recycling, and they have multiple facilities all over the National Capital Region, and just thinking about how they could do more recycling of their material that isn't red waste, isn't bio waste. Very interesting conversations. We'll see if they go anywhere. Next slide. There's a video. I'll read the comments quickly, but I'd like to share the video if it functions properly. We'll see. But MES hosted the Solid Waste Association of North America Mid-Atlantic Regional Equipment Rodeo on May 16th at the Midshore 2 Regional Landfill. This event provides a platform for heavy equipment operators and truck drivers from public and private entities to showcase their skills and compete regionally. The top 2 individuals in each category advanced to the international competition held this year in Lake Mary, Florida. Last year, MES had 5 employees advance to the international competition in Georgia, with 1 contestant winning the articulated dump trunk competition and 3 others placing in the top 3 in various events. In this year's regional competition at the Midshore Landfill, MES competitors won 5 of the 7 competitions, swept the top 3 spots in the compactor competition, and secured 10 podium finishes. 7 Midshore employees will represent MES at the international competition. Eric Fraze, Logan Milby, Tony Rowe, Andre Stanley, Kerry Davis, Domingo Lanes, and Seth Zork. So congratulations to everyone. It was a great event. It was a different day, but it wasn't as cold as the last year. And they had home court advantage and they came through. Let's see if the video will play, because, oh, fingers crossed.
I've been coming every year.
Am I backing up and then dropping it in?
My 9th time, ever since I started with MES.
What do you love about it?
Meeting new people, different equipment, just having a good old time.
Behind these smiles, behind these modest mindsets, lies a competitor within.
I feel like our MES crew will do pretty well.
Is it nervous anticipation or a perfect poker face?
Push your barrels. Okay.
All the way through.
All right.
Back up. Come around.
Okay. Yeah.
Push it through. I'll make it a little easier for you.
This is a competition built on skill, experience, and sheer determination.
Well, you see other people's skills, so yeah, it kind of tests you.
We don't have to do anything like this at work on a daily, so it's really cool to be able to see what we can actually do being in such close spaces.
The obstacle courses may differ in dexterity, but each requires a level of concentration, agility, and quickness on the draw if contenders in the cab want to crush the competition.
Feels good here.
And oh yeah, weather is almost always a factor.
It's a little wet towards the backside, so it makes it a little difficult.
Nice this year. Last year was a little rainy, so everything's drying up.
MES hosted the Solid Waste Association of North America's Mid-Atlantic Regional Rodeo at the Midshore 2 landfill.
I look forward to getting asked every year because I really enjoy it, and there is very few women here anyway, so it is awesome.
Where the rain fortunately held off just long enough, and the blistering sun only seemed to fuel the finalists. Heavy equipment operators and truck drivers, both public and private, navigated a field of twists and turns, tight spaces, and dominated the dirt with a kind of precision that only an expert at his or her craft could deliver.
8:08, new course record.
The objective, of course,
Let's go, Joe!
is to win the course.
Seth Zurk, MES.
And win, MES did.
Score of 84. Tony Rowe, MES. Champion landfill equipment operator, Andre Stanley, MES. Oh, that's how you coming back.
7 MES Midshore employees are now off to the international competition in the fall. Their modesty might help MES medal again.
Congratulations.
That was a good year for us.
So the audio is a little off in the multiple platforms, but we'll send it out to the board and you'll be able to see it in its proper form. But there you see all the winners. That's not.
Playing perfect on my screen.
It's playing perfect.
And then it's like a 30-second to a minute lag between the audio.
Right, but so for the long-term projects, I just wanted to highlight those cross-offs are all that were completed. So I think we did 8. And so if something is scheduled, I cross it off. Big launch of the resume database, waited a couple of years for that to be done, and it has launched. And now we'll work on helping make sure that hiring managers utilize it. So we'll be really store every resume we get, every outreach event, and hopefully we'll be able to mine that every time we have a new opening. We did research the books that we've been highlighting and trying to provide them in some online format for people to download. Comms did price it out. It was quite expensive compared to the number of requests that we get for copies of books at our facilities. So we'll just keep buying hard copies for the facilities. I got a nice review. So highlighted in yellow are things that were added to my list before you even saw them and now crossed off. But I did a nice review of our recruitment efforts for steam plant operators. It's a very difficult role to fill, a skill that's not being taught as much in the military anymore because of nuclear power versus steam power. However, we've got great plans and we have a training program, and we'll continue to do a deep dive in seeing how we can recruit more operators of our steam plants. Next slide. Some highlights. One highlight that I really want to point out. So you cross off 8 things, you add things to the list. Some long-serving things are remaining, but I want the board to be aware that in FY26 we will procure another class and comp study for position, as we have committed to in the Compensation Administration guidelines every other year. We also, even though we're going to be in the final 2 years of our strategic plan, we won't do our strategic plan in 1 year like last time. We will actually have a 2-year process to make sure all stakeholders can have a proper amount of time to be involved. And that's enough for the highlights, but those are my lists. I don't think I have another slide, but I do want to mention that over the last 11 months, I call it the phone call project, but the project was completed on May 23rd, 2025. The list of employees was printed on July 1st, 2024, with the intent to attempt to speak with every employee within 6 months. That was too daunting of a task. It took longer than 6 months. And I adjusted if there wasn't a cell phone in the system, I would just send an email. I do get responses to the email, so I haven't closed out all the responses. We are still working some of the input we've gotten. I still am getting input from emails because all of our staff don't do their email every day. But I'm really happy to have completed the project. It was a worthwhile project. The funniest response, because I would say, this is Dr. Glass just calling to check in on you. And the funniest response a few weeks ago was, I'm doing well, and I had a nice bowel movement this morning. That was the funniest response for the whole year. And obviously, I was mistaken for a gastroenterologist, and the staff member had just had a colonoscopy. A couple of the other funny responses were, people thought I was catfishing them because I said, this is Dr. Glass calling you. Like, why would Dr. Glass be calling me? There was also the scares, or one of the funniest ones was, why are you calling me? It was just, I would call later in the day. A lot of our staff do early shifts. So if I'm calling at 4, they would already be off. And one woman was quite demonstrative in demanding why I was calling. So it was just to say thank you for the work they do, and ask them if they had any questions or comments. Gotten questions and comments, and we run down every piece of feedback, so at least they know the communication is taking place. And that is the end of my director's report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Glass, and thank you for a little bit of levity in there. I got a big chuckle out of that one. Next up, we have the new business report, and we have a slide of accepted proposals. If you'd like to take a moment to peruse those, and feel free to ask any questions you may have. Okay, and hearing none, Mr. Patel is next up. Good morning, Mr. Patel, with our financial report.
Good morning. We have a very long agenda today, but financial performance is important. So I'm just going to highlight some of the important data and go through it, but feel free to ask me any questions you may have during or after the presentation. What you see is the charts fiscal year 24 actual, fiscal year 25, fiscal year 25 budget. Good news is that our billable labor is 821,000 higher from fiscal year 24. We are still not meeting the budgeted amount. This 37 million is prorated as of April, but there is not too much concern about it. Very likely that we probably wouldn't meet the budgeted amount as of June, but it will be much better than what we have now. So here is a little detail on group by group. Water, wastewater is 1.61% less than the last year, and technical environmental services is only 0.16% less than the last year. But the budget are 4% higher than the last year. So it looks like environmental dredging and environmental operations are on track, doing a little better than budgeted. Overall, the fiscal year 25 is 2.30% higher than fiscal year 24, but we may be about 1.6% lower than the budgeted amount. In the next few slides, I'll show you, because it's not a concern. We are recovering in other areas, so our net earnings is not reflected that much. So here is fiscal year 25 versus fiscal year 24. I'm just gonna, as mentioned in a previous slide, the labor sales is 821,000 up over the last year, which is good news. And the billable hours is 8,396 hours more than the last year. Very small percentage, 0.74%, but at least we are not losing any of the billable hours. And the range variance, we usually do not budget it because it goes up and down. The increase in net assets, is 881,000 lower than the last year, but it depends on the timing, how the week falls. And when we have a cutoff, sometimes, some of the expenses fall in the previous month, the next month. So it is not a main concern. The big thing is the revenues. The revenues are significantly higher. It's like a 7.4 million higher than the last year, which tells us that we are doing a lot of work for our clients. There may be a capital work, and there may be a pass through to the vendors, but it's a significant increase in revenue suggests that we are doing much more work for our clients as compared to the last year. And next slide. So here, if you look at the budget versus actual for 10 months, and we have a full year estimate in here. Our labor sales for budget was 43.8 million. We will meet based on current estimate, 43.5 million will be $438,000 short, which is not a concern because the biggest advantage is overhead expense. We had budgeted 17 million. We had budgeted at 5% over fiscal year 24. We are nowhere near that. We estimate is about 14.8 million. So there's a big saving in overhead expense. I'll just highlight that a lot of this higher management overhead positions that were vacant almost a year, including finance, which was vacant for 1 year. They're all filled now, in HR and some of the IT. In finance, those overhead positions are already filled now. So we will be very careful in budgeting for the next year because the overhead positions does not have that much turnover. So, but this year in fiscal year 25, we have a significant advantage of big savings in overhead expense because of the vacant positions. So in summary, the increase in net assets is our net earnings. We had a budget of 4.4 million. We're gonna probably reach, as of now, we are saying we have a 7.2 million estimated net earnings. However, keep it in mind, we will, in June, we'll find out. We will have to hold some of that funds for contingency because as our revenues goes higher, we have to increase the contingency fund, part of the board resolutions. And then we have OPEB. OPEB is dependent on the stock market returns. I cannot predict what's going to be in June. So very likely, if the stock market returns are lower than expected, then we'll have to take some of this money and put in the OPEB fund. Target is we should do as good as last year, and that's what we are striving for. And I don't see any concern at this time. Any questions? Thank you. All right, so this is my next item here. Resolution 25051R. Changes to project reserve funds. Chapter 604 of 2025. I'll thank Mr. Tosi. He tried very hard to guess us the increase in the contingency fund limits. We have multiple resolutions for contingency fund. 0309 2R, 0512 2R, 1105 2R. Very likely you have the resolution which mentions all of them. We are not repealing any of those resolutions. All we are doing is amending a couple of them. So reimbursable project contingency fund, it was a cap was $1 million. The legislature passed that it will be now $3 million. Eastern Correctional Institution Termine Project Contingency Fund, the limit was 1.5 million. Now it is 5 million. This doesn't mean that we're going to immediately fund to the maximum limit, but it allows us to gradually fund this contingency fund to reach that limit. In addition, there was a yearly limit in previous resolutions. This resolution 25051R asks to remove that 4-year limit of $300,000 or $250,000 for some of the contingency fund. So that's something you have to keep it in mind that we are increasing the total contingency fund allowable balance, and we are removing the yearly limits because we need to reach very high level. So we will try to get, whatever we can every year to reach those fundings. So then, unless you have any questions, I guess it will be the resolution that goes to the voting to the board.
Are there any questions? And if not, is there a motion to approve resolution 25-05-1R?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or items for discussion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye.
No.
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. The resolution has passed.
Okay.
And next up, we have more financials. Ms. Joes is here with the audit committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The audit committee met last week, and I think I'm going to pass it over to the audit chief, Ms. Condra, to give the board a full report.
So at the audit committee meeting, we went over 2 procurement policies to be reviewed. The first one is the procurement policy, PR 1-01, and the purpose of this policy is to ensure that MES procurement complies with COMAR regulations, and it also seeks to procure service and construction in a cost-effective and competitive manner that aligns with the best interests of the service, its clients, its vendors, and the general public. It also intends to strategically streamline the procurement process by reducing procurement risk and focusing on cost reduction efforts for the agency. The second policy is procurement policy 1.02. That's the P card policy. And the scope of this policy is to implement criteria and controls to reduce the risk in the services procurement card program. The purpose is to ensure the success of the procurement card program and to standardize the distribution and monitoring of the procurement cards in the agency.
Are there any questions on either of the proposed policies?
No.
Okay, the audit committee did recommend approval of the full board. Ms. Condra?
Yes.
So if there's nothing further, no further items for discussion, these are ready for a motion.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
And I'm assuming that's for approval.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got, I'll say Mr. Witt and Ms. Joes first and seconded. All those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, both of those policies have been approved. Thank you, Ms. Condra.
Welcome. Ms. Jones, do you want me to go through the audit, the whole audit slide?
Yes.
Okay. So at the audit committee, we talked about FY25 activities where we completed the duplicate payment review. It had a rating of effective. The two audits that we have currently in progress is procurement, the Popular Island contract management review, that is in a testing phase, and the Midshore 2 site management review, that's also in the testing phase. And for the what's the next upcoming audit is biosolids billing process review, which is projected to start between August, September of this year. Next slide. We also talked about the special investigation that was on Dr. Glass's list, where we reviewed the maintenance staff task based on the scope, which is to determine the existence of potential unfair management practices, also to validate if there are any controls in place to manage the maintenance staff, to ensure work order requests are completed correctly and timely, and expenses are allocated correctly to the state reimbursable cost center. The findings that we have there was, we found that test maintenance operation lacks control or has weak controls to ensure the timely completion of work order tasks and expenses, and that expenses are allocated correctly to the appropriate cost center and project numbers. The next finding we had was test maintenance staff is not compliant with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the U.S. Water Service Corporation, which requires entries in logbooks at each site. These regulations definitely help ensure water and wastewater treatment plants operate efficiently and comply with environmental standards. The recommendations prior to us completing the investigation, because Dr. Glass required a test management to implement a system in which the maintenance staff provide before and after pictures of work order tasks and upload them to a shared site for review. He also started the directive to install GPS devices in the vehicles assigned to the maintenance staff. And upon the completion of the investigation, internal audit recommended the following: that the test group implement the action plan presented by Dr. Glass, and also create and implement SOPs for the maintenance staff to ensure that they make entries in site logbooks. Also track tasks to complete applied time worked and mileage to the appropriate cost centers and project numbers. Based on these recommendations and the action plans in place, the deadline for the group to implement all this is June 30th, 2025. Questions? So we also recapped about on the upcoming FY26 audit plan, and where we have four planned audits, as you see there, where we're going to review the safety communication implementation process, and that's for the environmental operations group. And we're going to look at inventory management review at Masonville, and we're going to review the marketing contract management processes, and that's at for the environmental operations group also. And then looking at the reimbursable contract agreements that we have in place. And just to add, we do have a continuous audit effort where we're going to, every quarter, we're going to do a random testing of procurement cards for the agency. So one of the exciting things with audit that we discussed is about the billable projects that the internal audit team has been doing. That includes MDEM COVID closeout project, where we have two new staffs, and they're also on those projects also. That this amount does not, the billable $1,000 does not reflect their efforts because of the timing when they started. There is a new billable project dealing with MDE Task 1 and 2 project, and that's looking at process improvement at MDE. And that's where the chief of internal audit, myself, is there looking at that. And just want to note that does not include fringe and benefits amounts. And I mentioned about we have two new internal audit trainees. They're doing very well, Ryan and Nate. And we currently have an open lead internal audit specialist role that we're looking to fill.
Thank you, Ms. Condra. Are there any questions or comments? Is there anything else, Ms. Joes, that you would like to add regarding the audit committee?
No, our next audit meeting is in October, and I will keep the board abreast. Thank you, Ms. Condra.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Human Resources report, and am I correct? Was it Dr. Gross?
Yes, that's correct. Good morning.
Okay, good morning, Dr. Gross. Take it away.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So of the 767 positions we have at MES, we currently have a vacancy of 4.6%. And of that number, that equates to 39 openings, 11 are new opportunities. We actually have 24 that are active because we have 12 in process, meaning they are working their way through the offer process. We already have a start date with them. And we have 3 offer packages that are currently underway. Next slide, please. And this graph just shows the numbers that we shared with our total vacancies over the fiscal year. Slide, please. We are excited to welcome next week some summer internship and fellows. As you will see there, we have summer interns who will be with us from June 2nd through August, who will be working throughout the agency, providing us with some support while also learning. We have rotational fellows who will be starting for a 24-month period, who will again be providing us with some baseline support while learning. And then we have the 2 Yale scholars who will be joining us as well.
Are there any questions for Dr. Gross? And if not, next up, we have Ms. Condra again with our procurement items and notifications. And we have quite a lengthy list today, 13, I believe. So Ms. Condra.
Thank you. Item 1, this is for the Water Wastewater Engineering Division. And the project is Cheltenham Youth Detention Center Production, Well Drilling and Development. It is awarded to AC Schultz of Maryland Incorporated for the amount of $446,650, and the MBE goal is 3%.
Is there a motion to put this one on the floor?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Any questions or items for discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes have it. Number 2.
This is for the Environmental Operations Group, their engineering division, and this is for the project Prince George's County MRF Admin HVAC replacement. It's awarded to Vigil Contracting Incorporated for the amount of $492,982.18. And the MBE goal set for this is 20%.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 3.
This is for the Environmental Dredging and Restoration Group for their project, Masonville Ox Creek Dredged Material Containment Facilities. And this is awarded to BioSafe Systems, LLC. This is contingent on them fully being revived and in good standing with Maryland SDAT for the amount of $694,000, and MBE goal set 0%. There weren't any MBE available to supply this product.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, thanks.
Second.
Are there any questions or concerns?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 4, Ms. Condra.
This is for the Environmental Operations Group and for the project FY26 Sandy Hill Creative Disposal Project for the Regulatory Compliance Support Services. And it is awarded to Stearns, Conrad, and Schmidt Consultant Engineers Incorporated for the amount of $557,131, and the MBE goal set is 10%.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns?
I have one.
Yes, please, Dr. Johnson.
Under this, not available. Said to me, we made a decision without having everything in front of us to make a decision from. What does NA mean here?
So it's on the short list. So we have a architect and engineer short list that we do an RFP and covers a broad different categories and over a period of time. So they did go through the bidding, the competitive bid, but they're on our short list. So where anytime there's a need, we can go to our short list as part of our new procurement policy. We can do that.
So in fact, I think that's a better way to say it than not available. short list, selected from short list.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 5.
So this is for technical environmental service. Their project stormwater drainage construction SHA District 6. It is awarded to Carl Belt Incorporated for the amount of $8,325,071.50. Just to note that this amount includes the base 2 years and also the option year 1 and year 2 for the renewal. So it's all lumped into one. And the MBE goal percentage set is 10%.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Number 6.
So this is for the Technical Environmental Service Group again for their project stormwater drainage construction SHA District 1 and 2. And this is awarded to David A. Bramble Incorporated for the amount of $10,530,972. And again, this is includes the 2 base year and the option year 1 and option year 2 amounts. The MBE goal set for this is 9.64.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I just have one comment.
Yes.
You know, I've noticed on this one and a few of the previous projects, the MBE goal is, I think, low for what I would expect for this type of project. And I'm just wondering if that is, you know, as a result of what the bids were, or if there's another explanation for that, but it does seem lower than what we would expect for labor materials for construction.
So this is the reason why, it's because of the geographical area and the number of potential MBE firms that can respond to emergencies, and that's why.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Number 7.
The technical and this project SHA EISD Task 13, Transportation Model Mapping and Support, and this was awarded to Synergy Systems and Services Incorporated. Thank you. For the amount of $474,721.06. And the MBE goal set for this is 29.24%. The prime is an MBE and an SBR.
Okay, is there a motion to move this to the floor?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments?
I have the same comment. Amy.
Same short list, the GIS SBR.
It's clear to me if they're not available and you selected somebody. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 8.
This is for the Technical Environmental Service Group again, and this is for their project cleaning and maintenance for BWI, SHA, MTA, and MDTA facilities. And it's awarded to Kalyani Environmental Solutions LLC for the amount of $2,004,000. And again, this includes the 2 base years and the option year 1 and option year 2 in this amount. The MBE goal set for this is 12%. And just to know, Kalyani is an MBE prime.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 9.
This is for the Technical Environmental Service Group again, for the project lab service for environmental sample analysis for MES and MPA. It is awarded to Eurofins Environments Testing Northeast LLC for the amount of $1,750,000, and the MDE goal set is 0. There is only one there's only one MDE approved MBE lab, and that's like over 3 hours from Eurofins Testing North. So it's really far. So that's why it's 0.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Can I ask a question? When you say client-directed sole source, what does that mean?
Mean that the client requested that they go with that contract.
They requested the use of that lab for consistency.
So that's different than okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna abstain from the vote on this. I don't these client-directed sole sources, I'm not a big fan of them, just because I don't think it's not really in the spirit of the procurement law in Maryland. So I'll just abstain.
Is there a second? I'm not hearing a second, which will mean that the motion fails.
I'm trying to move it.
Okay, so Mr. Witt, is that a second?
Yes.
Okay, great. Ms. Condor, is there anything further you would like to add about the client-directed sole source process?
The client-directed sole source we don't do a lot of, but in this case, because it's a testing and it's again dealing with contamination and so that's why it makes sense for this lab, for this procurement to be a client directed due to the history of them doing the work, right? And it's yeah.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate the explanation. Ms. Keeley, does that help at least?
Well, I really feel like sole sources are for is this the only place that can perform this kind of work? And that to me is different than client-directed sole source. So putting my BPW hat on here.
Well, thank you for the comments. It sounds to me, from what I'm hearing, that Ms. Condra said this is the only firm within a reasonable distance. So I'm even wondering, I hear what you're saying, Ms. Keeley, about client-directed sole source. I'm wondering if sure, they directed us to sole source it. But I'm
Mhm.
wondering if the procurement method should be sole source, and the reason is because of the location, regardless of whether it's client
Yeah.
directed or not. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I mean, if it's just a sole source, that's fine, but client directed sounds a little like that they're trying to
They're trying to
it's not really a
circumvent.
sole source. Yeah.
Right, right.
So if
I
it's
hear
sole
you.
source, I'll vote for it. Sorry. Sorry to be difficult.
No, I think this is a really good question. And I hear what you're saying loud and clear. I'm not sure if there are any other comments from MES staff on this.
Historic data. This is not for the dredge material containment facility sites. There's
I can't
historic.
hear the person in the room. I'm sorry.
Sorry. This is for a lot of the dredge material containment facility sites. And there is a historic data set that the lab has had. And if we were to change labs, there is some concern that the detection limits could be different, the data set comparison could be different.
Okay.
So that's part of the reason why MPA prefers to continue using the same laboratory so that there's consistency amongst the data sets if we were to change contracts.
Okay. All right.
That makes-
That clears it up.
I mean,
I actually, I'll second what you're saying again, Ms. Keeley. I completely hear what you're saying. That does help a lot in the understanding. And I'm wondering if in the remarks in a sole source, client directed or otherwise, if we could include a little bit more of this information. I think that would help us understand a little more.
Yeah. Thank
Duly
you.
noted.
So we do have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I just have one comment. I mean, I think client-directed sole source can save, and I'm not sure how it aligns with procurement law, and I'm not an attorney, but I do think it can save a lot of time and resources from the agencies who are having to go through the bids and review and assess, the due diligence, all the details that go involved with that. To me, the question is the bid competitive or is the project price competitive? Not necessarily is the sole source the issue, but it should be a competitive price. And, I assume that task reviews proposals and costs from various labs and can ascertain or comment on the competitiveness of the price. But I would not want to just reject it just solely because it's a sole source from the client.
And that is a good question. Is this industry standard costing?
Yeah, I can answer that. The Eurofins lab is such a large contract that we get extremely competitive prices.
Great.
For sending so many samples there.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate both comments because I do believe that made it a more robust conversation and a lot better transparency. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? And I do not believe we had an abstention, correct?
Right.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Number 10.
So this is for the Environmental Operations Group for their project, Prince George's County Materials Recovery Facility. And this was contracted to CMT Service. This one, they $115,789.89. It revised the total contract amount to $4,167,982.60. The MBE goal set is 30%, and their participation to date is 29.14.
Very good.
Okay, is there a motion to move this to the floor?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Number 11.
Environmental Operations Group for the project FY26 Brown Station Road Sanitary Landfill Regulatory Compliance Support Service. And this is from the AE shortlist, so there's competitive bid. And it's awarded to SCS Engineers for the amount of $576,648, and the MBE goal set is 20%.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the ayes have it. Number 12.
This is for the Environmental Operations Group again for their project FY26 Sandy Hill Creative Disposal Project, Regulatory Compliance and Consent Order Support Services. And this is from our shortlist again that we don't need to bid out. And it's awarded to Arcadis US Incorporated for the amount of $565,337, and the MBE goal set is 30%.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Comment.
Yes.
Things that have been said or carried through. Multiple items. I didn't say anything about it, but please correct it so NA has a meaning other than.
Yes.
Same thing goes with the conversation that we had previously. And that's with changes that we're carrying over.
Okay, it was hard for us to hear the comment on this end. Has that comment been resolved?
Ms. Condra, repeat the question from Dean Johnson.
So the question is, when it comes to the short list, with the bids and proposals, putting an NA, we should on the list, it might not be on here, but to put, it was selected from the short list with some explanation about that it already was competitively bid, which we are gonna do that forward when we do when it is a short list selection.
Excellent. Are there any other comments or questions? All right. All those in favor of approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the ayes have it. And last but not least.
This is for the group Environmental Operations. This is a change order for their project, Brown Station Road Sanitary Landfill Area C, Cell C-1 construction. Contractor is Allen Myers MD. This is the change order for the amount of $211,502, which changed the revised the total contract amount to $11,484,142.42, and the MBE goal set is 29%, and participation rate is 27.17%. Currently with that, they're going to they need to update their MBE plan for future MBE subcontractor, which will increase their participation. So they're not including some MBE subcontractors that we're not on their plan, so they're gonna update their plan, so when we run our reports again, it's gonna reflect the 2%.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions on procurement item number 13?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Are these change orders just extensions of time for this contract, or are these additional funds needed to do the same work in the initial procurement?
Brown, are you prepared or?
Mr. Brown?
I couldn't hear the room if somebody.
Yeah, I believe, but we will get back to you, Mr. Botts. I believe that this is a landfill construction, and I believe there are adjustments to not just time, but actual changes. But Mr. Brown said the opposite thing, but Mr. Brown is in charge of Montgomery County, not Prince George's County. And right now we don't have anyone on vacation. So we'll get back to you with a confirmed answer.
The remark say is the result of a change in scope.
It's a change in scope.
Reconstruct a segment of the access road.
There you go. So it's reconstruct a section of the access road. Thank you. I believe that means I was right. Mr. Brown's wrong. But so no, these are changes. This is a large, long-term capital project. It's going to give Prince George's County 50 years of landfill life, 25 years of landfill life. Excuse me. I think that's right. 25 years of landfill life after they're complete. But it is changes in the construction.
Thank you, Dr. Glass.
Okay. Thank you for that description. Are there any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Ms. Condra.
Welcome.
Next up, we have I think this is the first time since I have been on the board, 3 slides of procurement notifications. And these are contracts, purchase orders, amendments, change orders in between the amounts of $25,000 and $200,000. So if you'd like to take a moment and look over the list, and feel free to offer any comments or ask any questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a legal report this morning from Ms. Carroll.
Madam Chair and members of the board. Our office continues to be very busy with advice, transactional, and litigation matters. Just to give you a brief update on one of the more significant transactions we're working on, that's the Midshore 2 bond transaction. We are having bi-weekly meetings with bond counsel, the financial advisor, members of MES staff, project staff, and with the finance, Mr. Patel and his staff. So that transaction is moving along. We expect a competitive bond sale in August. We should have a resolution before you next month for approval of the issuance and some details of the transaction. So we're expecting that next month. And helping us with our large workload, we have a summer law clerk who's sitting beside me. This is Billy Hennessy. He has just finished his first year at Tulane Law School, and he is working with us as unpaid as a summer law clerk, but he is getting law school credit for his hours with us. And Billy has an expressed interest in learning more about environmental law and serving in public service in the future. So we're happy to have him. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. We're going to launch into the group updates. And first up today is Mr. Tosi with a 2025 Employee Engagement Survey. Mr. Tosi, good morning.
Good morning. I'm gonna try to keep this short. I know we have a long agenda today, so I'm gonna go through this. Every year, MES does an employee engagement survey. We started this in 2022, and we've continued it each year. The questions remain all the same, with the exception of a couple that we added this year in response to one of our KPI efforts for the quarterly meetings that we conduct. So it's important that we do this so we can engage with our employees. And we get a lot of feedback from our employees, and we turn that feedback into action plans, which you'll see in a minute. So we feel that this does drive performance and retention. It creates positive work culture, and it aligns our work and our employees with mission and goals. Next slide. So that's right. We changed the slide deck a little bit. So this is the process that we go through with the survey. So we conduct the survey, which is really step one, and then all the work happens after the responses. So we review and analyze the results. We discuss this with the leadership team. We identify some areas of improvement, create action plans, communicate the action plan to the staff, implement those throughout the fiscal year. It's done on a fiscal year basis, so really July 1 through June 30. And then around April, May, June, we annually intend to update the board on progress of the list of actions that we have identified from the previous survey, which is what I'm doing today for the 2024 and 2025 survey. Next slide. So the 2025 survey, the 2024 survey action items, we're going to provide an update and a status update on the action items from the previous survey. We had roughly 8 focus areas, which resulted in 24 different unique action items. And to date, we have completed 21 of the 24 items, and the 3 that are in progress, which I'll discuss on the next slide, which we can go to now, I guess I'm going to discuss the ones that we've already completed. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but I will provide some kudos to Dr. Glass for finishing all the calls to the MES employee staff, which was one of the action items from the 2024 survey. I'll pause for a second to see if anybody had any questions. Any of the board members have any questions about these? If not, I can move to the next slide to discuss the 3 that are outstanding. So the 3 of the 24 from the 2024 survey that are outstanding, which is, runs through the rest of this fiscal year, we are on track to complete these. Refreshing the Inspire Employee Recognition Program, which I believe the board looked at a previous meeting. We will have those completed by the end, by basically next month. Streamlining permitting and procurement processes. There's a PIT team that I think the board is very well aware of and had an update on last meeting or 2 meetings ago. And then strengthening onboarding managers for managers and supervisors. We've incorporated this one into the best goals for fiscal 26, which the board will see in the coming months. So the 3 that are remaining are going to be completed. So the 2025 survey, finally. In February, we did the annual survey. It had 341 respondents this year, which was a significant increase over the amount of respondents that we've had over the past 3 years that we've done survey. As was the case in 2024, 2023, and 2022, the same 26 questions for multiple choice and the same 9 short response questions were on the survey. And as I mentioned, we added 3 additional questions which relate to Mr. Lipinski's KPI, which was titled, I can look, need my glasses for this too. Every employee should know the path to advancement as everyone should be informed of the required skills through performance reviews. So we wanted to add some questions to assist Mr. Lipinski with his data collection on his KPI. So we added those 3 questions this year, and then in future years we'll keep collecting that data. Next slide. This is a graph that shows the 26, now 29 multiple choice questions, which we make a statement and we ask individuals who respond to the survey to let us know whether or not they agree, strongly agree, whether they're neutral, whether they disagree or strongly disagree. We lump the strongly agree, and the strongly disagree into one category to create a positive, a neutral, and a negative in terms of the response rate for those questions. And as we can see from the graphic, the response positivity on these questions remains pretty high. So meaning if somebody's asked whether or not they like their compensation at MES, will come up in a minute, they're going to say yes, like I agree or I strongly agree. So 76% on that. And then in the 2025 survey, 5.3% might have responded that they feel neutral about that question, and then 8% overall might have felt that they were that they disagreed with that statement. So, and then that goes on for 26 questions.
15% neutral, right? 15.3.
That 15. Sorry, yeah, you're right.
5.
Yeah, that's right. The math won't add up. 13 and 76 won't add up to 100. Right. Didn't see the one there. Go ahead, next slide. So with the 2025 survey, these are the 3 questions that we added this year and some response rates. The first question, we didn't do the 5. It's really just a yes or no question. Oops. All right. We're back. So with respect to discussing advancement opportunities, which I feel like on this question, it should be 100% agree and 0 disagree. So this is, we like feedback, whether or not it's negative or positive. And if we receive negative feedback, I would consider this to be negative feedback. We know where we can improve. So this is an area where we can improve, and we hope in the future years that disagree function goes down significantly. Maybe we're never going to get 100%, but we should strive to hit 100% on this goal. But we would like to see this disagree go down significantly. I know the steps to advance that I need to advance my career at MES is another question that we added this year in response to the KPI. And the response rate was fairly positive on this one, although I think we can do some improvement here as well. And then just to get a little bit of a sense, this was an optional question. We didn't ask everybody, make it mandatory to respond. So you won't see, I can't do the math in my head here. If I could, I'd be a genius. But I think it's probably less than 341. But this one just asks where the respondent is based, if they're 100% headquarter based, 100% field based, or split. And so we got some good responses there. Next one. And then each year I like to highlight the 3 most positively and 3 most negatively responded questions. And then I like to just point out how this compares with last year's survey. So the 3 most positively responded questions: I have a good working relationship with my colleagues, I'm satisfied with my benefits, and I have a good relationship with my supervisor. The highest positively responded question this year was the same as last year. So that was interesting. The benefits question last year was the 3rd most positively. This year is the 2nd most positively. So, and then the relationship with the supervisor is a new addition to the top 3 most positively responded questions. So just interesting. I think the one from last year that was number 2 probably made up pretty high on the list. Usually does. It's providing excellent customer service to our clients and partners. I think most people at MES feel that we do that. So it just didn't make the top 3. The three most negatively responded questions on the next slide, which again, we like the feedback. We want to know where we are in terms of where we can improve. Our compensation to employees, which was also the #1 negatively responded question last year. Seeing clear opportunities for career growth and advancement, which dovetails in with one of the prior slides where we discuss where we want to know more about what people feel their path to advancement is. And then I feel recognized for my hard work and success. Now, we want people to feel recognized for their hard work and success here, because I think a lot of people put in a lot of hard work, and MES is very successful. So it's concerning that this is the top 3 negatively responded questions. However, what I will point out to you is that even though these are the top 3 negatively responded questions, people still felt strongly positive about the statement. It's just that their negatives were higher than the others. In other words, on the top compensation question, 68% of the people felt that the compensation is adequate. 20% negative is high, not to come down, but I think there's still positive to take away from this, even though there's room for improvement here. Next slide. So with the 2025 employee engagement survey, these were the key themes that we identified where on the short response question. So these are 9 questions where we ask people to respond with a statement of their own, as opposed to just a multiple choice. And so these are some of the areas of topics that we will dive into with our task list for the 2020 fiscal 25, fiscal 26 year. And then the next steps for us on the 2024 survey is finalizing those action items, creating a fiscal 26, when it says develop 2025 action plan, that's an action plan for the 2025 survey, which will be implemented in fiscal year 26, using with the fiscal versus calendar year. Next slide. That it? Okay. Well, so there should have been, I think there should have been one more. Maybe there wasn't. Well, I guess that's it.
Is there any questions?
Oh, go ahead. Is there any questions about the survey, the action plan? We will develop an action plan for the 25 survey. We're in the middle of doing that now. And we will have a future communication with the board about the action items for the 25 survey. It's in development. Any questions? Done? Now you can go to the next slide.
Excellent. Next, we're going to hear a little more about Workday.
Good morning. I am the newest addition to IT. I'm the new Workday Principal Architect, and I joined at the beginning of this. So I do like to start out with the negatives, and I like to end with the positives. So let's just discuss some of the issues and problems that MES has historically seen, what I have encountered since I've been here, and then some of the things that we're doing to across the board.
Apologies, but you're trailing off a little bit there. Having a hard time hearing you on the phone.
So first thing I want to talk about just kind of the issues and problems that we've been experiencing.
Thank you.
So there's about 6 to 7 main points that I want to go over. I'm going to go into a couple of them a little bit more, but what we're really seeing here at MES, specifically with IT and with our ERP system, are inefficient business processes, lack of security, inefficient process stewardship, some purchasing disorganization, need for more granular financial tracking, data fidelity, and some legacy system alignment between our ERP system and what we used to do and what we used to have. One of the biggest ones that I'm going to touch on as well is the overuse of consultants. But before I get to that, let's talk about these inefficient business processes that we are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. They are getting better, but we have lots of long, inefficient, illogical cycle times on a lot of our core business processes. Some that we have seen are purchasing, change orders, which were very much so a paper process, amendments, and I can go on a little bit more, but these are just examples of core business processes that are used on a daily basis. What does this produce? This produces high frequencies of user errors due to complex or unclear workflows. I think that it's hard to do your job if your job is unclear. Without the proper training in an ERP system, we do see this a lot of high frequency of user errors just due to not having clear business processes. So in turn, what does that produce? Frustration among our end users. And that ultimately negatively impacts their productivity and their engagement to MES as a whole. So how are we going to solve that? We're solving that by streamlining processes, reducing manual entry, addressing issues through steering committees, and finally reducing user error by improving their tasks, what they see in Workday, and their UI. So another one that I want to go over was purchasing disorganization. So one thing that I did see, albeit it's not that big of a deal right now to me, I did see that we had some redundant or overstated POs. We have issues regarding security onto who can actually do these POs within each organization. Process stewardship, who's actually the true owner of these rec to check processes within each organization. And then, just as I said earlier, change orders, long processing times. Change orders were paper process. We're moving away from that on all fronts. And then we also have missed opportunities for state purchasing discounts. What that means is that some of our lower level admins and purchasers, they don't always go through our state discounted suppliers. We're solving that by centralizing purchasing. So three of our first three suppliers that we're using for centralized purchasing is RGH, Grainger, and Home Depot. This has not been opened up to the rest of the organization yet, but we are very much so completing testing, and this allows our lower level admins and buyers to automatically go out to state supply or state contracted supplier websites, automatically pull in those discounts. You don't have to freeform and type in items, but you're actually pulling items from a supplier's site. So what is this going to do? This is going to reduce our PO inaccuracies. It's going to increase our time to completion. And it's going to reduce manual entry through a streamlined rec to check process. And more importantly, I think that the steering committees that have been formed surrounding these business processes is going to take us really far down the road, which allows us to come up with process stewardship standards that we can get behind in our ERP system. So one of the final ones I just wanted to go into a little bit in depth are the lack of the legacy system alignment. Aligning our ERP system to your previous processes, what your employees might have used to do. So what does that mean in the IT world? That means that we have delays in modernization and scalability of our organization, our hierarchies, how we look as an org chart in the ERP system, security. And what does that mean? That means redundant, inactive, childless, even parentless organizations. And then in addition to that, delays in appropriate scaling of security based on whether that be reporting, job security, process security, data security, and process stewardship. So we're taking on legacy cleanup internally. We're increasing the robustness and scalability of our ERP system and our legacy system alike. Our end goal is really to improve end user experience, resolve gaps in these business processes, and this allows for more streamlined communication between Workday, our existing systems, and our end users. So one of the big issues that I wanted to touch base on that we're moving away from is the over-reliance on consulting. Historically, we have been pretty attached to consultants across the board, whether that's finance, HR, payroll, and time tracking. We were really attached to a couple of different consultants. They have a very high rate, $185 an hour. Up until this year, we were over in our budget. We'll see that on the next slide. But that also brings about a couple of other issues like delays in ticket resolution, because we're depending on external consultants to come in, solve our problems, and we're paying them to do that. That also means that we're unable to scale internal knowledge. These consultants are retaining the documents, they're retaining the knowledge, and they know what's going in and out of our system, not us. By moving away from consultants, we regain all that. We bring that all in-house. We are now the experts for our own system. The other side of that are the high consultant quotes for our strategic projects. What you see actually up on the slide right now has already been completed by IT this year, but that's an estimated quote from our consultants that we normally go through. So as you can see, it's too high. We don't want to get behind that anymore, and we're going to get away from that as much as we can. And then on the other side of that, critical initiatives like KPIs. A lot of stuff has been blocked because consultants don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the bandwidth to kind of go back and forth with consultants. So by bringing this in-house, a lot of these times to completion are improving. The KPIs are being done. They are being taken care of. Go to the next slide. So we have eliminated consultants across all functional areas. Fiscal year 23, we were over budget by $4,300. Fiscal year, we were over budget by $8,000. And fiscal year 25, we are actually under budget by $21,000. And we will continue to be under budget. I believe you can maybe speak to the contracts a little bit more, but we don't plan on renewing contracts as we had them previously. Another proponent of moving away from consultants, the fact that we reduced our tickets, our in-house tickets. In our IT ticket tracker, I think I came on, we had in excess of 90 tickets. Now we're averaging about 15 tickets a week. And that average is not new tickets being submitted. They're more so mini projects and KPIs and initiatives that we're just waiting to spin up when we have the bandwidth. And I think that's just quoting that customer portal once more. So we can go on to the next one. Oh, you can go back to the graph. And that's just a quick graph, just once again stating what I just went over. One other thing that I do want to mention is that I believe that consultants do not have our budget in their best interest. I believe that they do want to come in and they do want to do valuable work for us, but I do not believe that they consider our budget as a constraint for them. So that being said, let's go to the next one. So one big one that I want to go over is our responsiveness and attention to end users. This kind of plays into Workday, but also it's IT as a whole. One thing is that we had excessive and redundant Workday support tickets. They weren't being taken care of in time. People were really, when I say people, I mean our end users. Our end users were really feeling unheard. A lot of times their tickets would go, past a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, sometimes even a month. And those are just delays that we can't have in an organization of this scale. Many projects were handled as tickets, needing multiple touch points between MES, IT, and our consultants, and it's just time consuming. We don't want to have to go out and schedule a consultant, 2 hours during the week to get a job done that could have been done 30 minutes in-house. And the price obviously is very much so inflated. And then also by bringing that stuff in-house, these end users see our IT in front of them. They see me, they see Kanishk in front of them, and they do appreciate that. So this is just a recap of what I was talking about earlier. What IT has really seen across the board in the past 4 to 5 months are improvement of our inefficient business processes, improvement of our lack of security, whether it's through business processes, data security, report security, improved process stewardship across the board through purchasing, finance, payroll and time tracking, HR, purchasing disorganization, which is very much so getting better, poor tracking and visibility for finance, and data fidelity as a whole. So now that I've gone over the negatives, let's try to end this off on a couple of positives here. So I think that IT in the past few months has recouped a lot of money that we would not have had otherwise. So this is just a quick breakdown of what I believe we have saved since I have joined, which has been January. So we did avoid the customer portal case, avoiding a actual quote of, I believe it was over $100,000. We completed the bank integration swap and the integration and the swapping of the bank accounts. The S2 Verify background check, we are live as of last week. We handled the 2025 customer release in-house, and not just the customer release, but the whole audit package of everything in our system, audits of reports, audits of organizational roles, security. Pre-note integration is in progress. And then, like I said earlier, the centralized purchasing integrations. And this is another conservative estimate. This is based on IT's hours worked on these initiatives. I do believe if a consultant was attached to these projects, it would be a significantly higher number. But right now, IT is projecting an estimated strategic project avoidance of $185,000 in 5 months. Correct. So, as I said earlier, we are bringing all those tickets in-house. We're not going to consultants anymore. Generic consultant avoidance as well. And what I mean by that is we're taking away the ability for, our functional SMEs to go out and get their own consultants, meaning that they have to come through IT first. If we do feel like it is an issue that needs a consultant, we will go out and we will source that. But for right now, with the strategic project consultant avoidance that we just touched base on, generic avoidance and ticket-based support savings, IT is projecting savings of $260,000 within the past 5 calendar months. So just to recap, IT in the last 4 months has improved internal knowledge retention, improved business processes in logic, reduced end user manual entry, increased financial visibility and tracking, increased the robustness and scalability of our multi-million-dollar ERP system. We have improved security and data fidelity across the board, and we've improved and we will continue to improve data and process stewardship through our steering committees as time goes on. And I think the biggest thing to take away from this is that we have stopped outsourcing. And I'm happy to take any questions. Sometimes I do talk fast, so I have to reel myself back in, but I think my brain moves faster than my mouth, but I will take any questions if you guys have them.
That's better than both.
Moving. So I think that honestly, IT has had some issues in the past. It's good to acknowledge that, but it's better to acknowledge that we're definitely moving in the right direction. I think IT has a lot more of a not prominent role, but I think that we're being seen now in the proper light, and that light is coming from the work that we've done, and I think that that's pretty solid.
That's really impressive. Are there any questions?
Rose seems to have a question.
Yes. Madam Chair, I do have a comment and questions. Thank you. Actually, this was a pretty good presentation. I've seen workdays being implemented in other cities and utilities as well. And the rollout is so important on how you do it. So thank you for this presentation. As you go through rolling it out, do you have trainings for the people using it to kind of reinforce these changes so they sustain?
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things that we're working on now are the trainings. We do have trainings already, but I believe what we really want to do is create a central repository for trainings, so our end users can readily access those trainings whenever they need to. And then, like I said earlier, just bringing everything in-house, having more attention to detail brings a lot of that knowledge in-house, which helps our end users with, with this multi-million-dollar ERP system. But to directly answer your question, yes, we are very much so engaged in training. Training is a very, very, very big part of Workday. And as time goes on, we will try our best to continually improve on training that we provide to our end users.
And is there any other software that it has to integrate with that deals with the operations besides just HR that you would have to plan?
I'm sorry, did you say integrations?
Yeah, any other software that's used? Would there be any integration with any other operational software to kind of have a central repository of things when you?
Yeah, so right now we're bouncing around the idea of a document repository through Laserfish, which helps us create, manage, and track our financial packages. I know there has been some talks of time clocks that will assist some of our, I think, engineers in the field with entering their time and things of that nature. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess are we getting at possible improvements and possible IT based solutions for people out in the field that can just kind of make their job a little bit easier?
Yeah, that's what I was going at. I've seen people where they just don't know how to use it and they go back to their paper, and it's your return on investment is deeply tied into human interactions. I've seen field people just revert back to pen and paper just because they find it too hard to navigate through it. And that's where my training question came from. So kind of providing that support. So it's sustained even for the field operational staff.
Right.
And it looks like you have that in place. It was just an observation, but thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Jones? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to hear more about the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science at Horn Point.
Thank you. This presentation is going to just highlight some details and photos from the Inspire Award that was provided to 9 individuals from Poplar Island, Test Maintenance, and our headquarters. So University of Maryland Center for Environmental Sciences had contacted MES. They needed some help on a deteriorated discharge pipe at their oyster hatchery at Horn Point Lab. And there were a lot of concerns because the pipe was so deteriorated. It was eroding the soils, and there were the soils that were holding up the seawater supply line. So if the repairs weren't made, there was concerns that they couldn't wait another year and there would be a collapse. So this is just a snapshot at the timeline, which was pretty tight. A lot of the time was spent just contracting with UMCs because this was a new project for us, and it was an emergency. So as soon as they provided us with the NTP, we had a company go out and do a video inspection of the pipeline and found that there was corrosion, there were blockages, and also a partial collapse in a section of the pipe. So we immediately got our supplies and went out to attempt the repair on the 2nd of January, but the pipe was so in bad condition that we weren't able to do it. 2 days later, UMCs gave us approval to go ahead and replace the whole entire line, which was 144 feet. We had to order specialized equipment, materials, and we were able to get out there and complete everything by the 22nd of January, and they could turn their oyster hatchery back on. And if you recall, this was all during that frigid winter time frame, so they were out there doing hard work. This is a photo of the 2 seawater supply lines, And as you can see, they cross right over the area, the excavation where the discharge pipe was. So it was a very complicated trenching operation. It included a lot of hand digging in the cold. And we knew it would probably happen, but we were hoping it wouldn't happen, but we did nick one of the lines. And luckily, test maintenance came out very quickly, repaired the line. We were able to finish up the job and get it all done. And this is a photo of the completed, graded, and stabilized area where the discharge pipe was on the left. And then you can see the outfall of the pipe in the clean out. UMCES was really happy. We performed the work for $86,000, and the estimated budget was $130,000. And they'd like us to come out next November and repair another pipe and do some berm grading and dredging a pond. So we're happy to go help them again. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, next up, we have DNR Environmental Review Program Support.
The TES staff support the Department of Natural Resources in providing environmental review expertise and planning input for bridge projects, mostly for the permitting. So for bridge projects, there are a lot of things going on when you're permitting and constructing a bridge. There's mitigation planning, which needs to address in the area. That's everything from the macro and micro invertebrates, the bottom of the food chain, the fish, the birds, the terrestrial critters. A major component of the mitigation planning is how to address that mitigation that may not happen for construction takes so long. And then the actual construction impacts, they need to be addressed because there are a range of flora and faunal resources in a bridge area. There's usually multiple overlapping time of year restrictions. Those are weeks to months when work can't happen because it will bother sensitive species in the area. For example, one bridge project site had anadromous fish time of year restrictions from February to March, SAB time restrictions from April to October, and oyster bed restrictions from June to September and December to March. That doesn't really leave very much time for work. A part of the environmental review staff look at each of these windows and they assess with the permit applicant what can happen at certain times and how to sequence the work to make sure that we're meeting those time of year restrictions, but still getting the work done. One example is there's a requirement to keep safe fish passage when demolition and noisy things are happening. So they work with always making sure that a quarter or a third of the river is not getting any of those noise impacts, that they're quiet zones so fish can migrate, or having quiet hours through the night for construction to make sure that the fish can migrate through the night. So they work along with the permittee, making sure we can meet all those requirements. The Susquehanna Rail Bridge is an MTA railroad bridge project in Harford and Cecil counties. And the bridge is scheduled for a full replacement and has been under review and permitting since 2023. The permit has now been issued, and the MES staff role now is to coordinate all those time of year restrictions. A lot of requests will come in for waivers, and what happens is the staff will go and look at actual real-time resources in the area. So if there's a time of year restriction that starts June 15th, and the contractor is asking if they can get their work started, you know, they will go out and say, is that resource in the area on June 15th? Maybe the weather was different, the water temperature is a little different, and they'll say, okay, we can say that you can start your work and the restriction won't happen until June 30th. So once the permit is issued, they will go and assist with those day-to-day tweaks. This area in particular has endangered northern map turtles who use that area of the bridge hibernation, and they nest along the shoreline. They use some of the bridge structure to hide out and seek forage. So this one is a pretty sensitive area, and they work almost day in and day out on this one. Next. The Nice Bridge is an MDTA project, which is part of US 301 over the Potomac River. This bridge opened in 2022 after a permit review that started in 2018. This one took extensive coordination because of the short-nosed sturgeon, which is an endangered species. Right now, the staff is assisting with the completion of the demolition of the old bridge. And this one is notable because it set up the first conditions for fish mortality compensation during a demolition project. This is a high-profile MDTA project that started in 2018. The current phase is in Tier 2. It's the Tier 2 study right now. And that is looking at the exact configuration of the bridge with the shoreline tie-ins. MES staff are reviewing components of the study specific to where Sandy Point State Park is. The tie-in is right around the boating areas. So DNR wants these properties looked at to look at any of their very specific impacts. DNR also owns a property south side of Route 50. I think it's called Holly Beach Farm. So there are several studies that have to go on over there because it may be of historical significance. So the MES staff working at DNR are working on those tie-in areas. And last but not least, the Francis Scott Key Bridge. It's been just over a year from that accident, and the MES staff began working with DNR on coordination for emergency cleanup on the morning of the accident. So they've been working on this one right from the very start. This project is operating under expedited NEPA and permitting. It has a categorical exclusion because it is an emergency project. So right now the staff are working with the design build contractor to minimize any impacts to the extent possible. This area actually has a colonial waterbird nesting area and a oyster sanctuary about 500 yards from where the bridge debris is. So again, doing everything they can to move the construction along, but keeping those sensitive resources sort of right in line as well.
Thank you, Ms. Latnick. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Next up, we have a compost industry update.
Hi, my name is Jason Brown. I'm the division chief over Montgomery County operations. Been looking at the compost industry as a whole in Maryland. There's a very limited capacity of landfills and shrinking every day, which is driving conversations around what can be diverted, with organics being a major topic of that, being a large portion of what can be. There's been a lot of legislation over the last couple of years on people that generate food waste on a certain amount over a certain period of time, but they're only bound to recycle it if they're within a radius of a facility. But when you look at the available facilities to recycle food waste in Maryland currently, there's really only 3 large scale, 2 of them municipal, Howard County, which is only taking residential waste, and PG County, which is operated by MES. And then the one private sector, which is the anaerobic digester in Jessup, Maryland, operated by BioDevco. So limited options currently. I know legislation was hoping to spark more infrastructure, but it's still in process. And but the good news is there is a very large demand for the finished product of compost between the home and garden, but also the bioretention soils throughout Maryland with water preservations. So there's the end product need is there, and now it's just about feeding that need. Next slide. So opportunities with the shrinking of landfill space, I think that poses how do we process waste differently? What can we do? I think we can provide solutions with food waste specifically, especially with the focus between the federal, state, and local agencies on what we can do to mitigate the food waste getting into the landfills. There's been more of a push for funds to spark infrastructure between the EPA grants and again, even local municipalities starting to put money aside for what can be done. And I think where MES is positioned strongly is we can help connect dots outside of what maybe a city looks with only within that city. For example, currently Montgomery County takes some of their waste to PG County. So we're able to connect dots across lines and look at more regional solutions, not just singular solutions within a city or county or township. Next slide. Some of the challenges that we face as an industry as a whole, though, is the need for real estate funding and infrastructure is usually the biggest. Real estate's getting sparse, especially with the zoning and proximity to homes. Not a lot of people want a compost facility right next to their house. And then infrastructure takes time, permitting takes time, and funding. Can be very expensive. Even if you have a yard waste compost facility and you want to upgrade it to include food waste, it's going to be significant investment in the permitting timeline as well as the infrastructure needed. Whenever we're looking at upgrading a facility from yard waste to food waste, the question comes into contamination. When you start bringing in food waste into a compost facility, it's usually where most of the contamination comes from. A lot of it being education based, but also the lack of industry standards across compostable products. What is truly compostable? Some compost facilities compost in 45 days, some take 6 months. Will your product, your paper-based or plastic-based compostable product, break down in 45 days, or are you still going to look at a piece of plastic in your compost? So I know nationally that's getting a lot of attention with the USCC and several state agencies to get some type of standards. There's a lot of greenwashing going on. Biodegradable does not mean compostable. All the above. So PFAS gets brought up quite a bit if you're looking at siting a new facility or introducing a new waste stream to that facility, such as food waste. I can tell you that, from my perspective, PFAS is more of an upstream problem, needs to be focused from the manufacturing side that's introducing it, not where it's getting collected at the end and where we're trying to solve the problem. And then microplastics gets brought up quite a bit, especially as we look at depackaging equipment. I can tell you we have more of a macro problem than we have a micro problem. The amount of plastic entering in facilities is enormous and on a large scale. And I think any type of equipment that's going to help take those large pieces out is going to solve our overall plastic problem. So I think a lot of the times people can get hung up between the PFAS and the microplastics, but we have to remember that the overall goal is to divert and produce a quality compost product that is sellable in the marketplace and not harmful to anybody. Next slide. So for next steps, continue to educate the public through the United States Compost Council and the Maryland DC chapter, which MES is both heavily involved with. I think that's helping drive conversations and introduce methods. We continue to collaborate with industry professionals as well as our current and potential clients on how we can help them divert more and process their waste. And then just providing small, medium, and large scale opportunities to do those things, whether that's a regional facility that helps multiple municipalities or maybe a community center helping them get started with the groundwork just so they can, do the small radius. But I think, again, MES is in a great position to provide all expertise across the board. Any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And finally, we have an update from the Water Wastewater Group on the water tanks.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Emily Martinazzi. I'm an assistant engineer with the Water and Wastewater Group here at MES. So here at MES, we have a water tank maintenance program. And the reason why we have that is water tanks are critical for water storage and many of the state parks, the prisons, military bases, and so many more of the other state facilities that our reimbursable projects are involved with. So MES is responsible for maintaining these tanks to ensure safe drinking water for these sites. And also the Water and Wastewater Group oversees inspections, and we work with third-party inspectors to ensure that our tanks remain in good condition, are still functioning at their best capacity. Next slide. So above ground, the type of inspections we have are above ground inspections, which are visual assessments of the exterior. They walk around, they look at all the exterior components, the ladders, the legs going up, the pipes going up whenever they get a chance. That's the exterior. And then on the interior, they drop a little submarine looking thing, which we call an ROV, or remotely operated vehicle, which is on the left. They drop that in after they disinfect it, and it swims around, and the third-party inspector just drives it in the truck. And a lot of times I get to sit in there and watch him do it, and he narrates it the entire time, which is fun because I get some good experience of seeing what tanks are like. And then the two pictures, one in the middle, one on the right, of one tank over at ECI that I just recently had inspected. The tank's good for 3 to 5 years. So that's normally the time between inspections. And you can see the sediment in the middle, which is about ½ inch, which is not too bad. And that's fine. That's normal in tanks. And then also on the right, that was part of the last repair of the tank. A piece of the paint had come off at their annual inspection after the tank was painted. And the contractor was totally surprised, and he had to go in and fix that afterwards. So you can see it was about the size of an SUV was the total size of it. So, so that's above ground. For the inside or buried tanks, the tanks have to be drained before the inspection. So we got to work with operations to make sure the tank is completely clear, and any excess water will be removed by the third-party inspectors. And then the exterior is inspected visually, and the large tanks that are larger and have a big enough manhole, they require inspectors to enter the tank. So they squeeze in with all their equipment and all that stuff and go inside and clean it out. And it's really cool. Look, when they come out of the tank, it's like slides right out. It's really cool to watch them do that. So you can go to the next slide. So after we get these tanks inspected, the next step is maintenance reports and rehabilitation. So if the tank comes back, you're good. It's about every 3 to 5 years that we get the QA/QC inspection. But if they come back going, you need to rehabilitate this tank. Take those inspection reports, and then you get your specifications based off that, based off the condition, and they guide with the repairs and the maintenance decisions. And we generally get the tanks rehabilitated every 15 to 20 years. Either they strip them down to bare steel and then repaint them, which is normally done if you have lead paint still, or they just overcoat them. And overcoats can last about 40 years. So that's actually more cost effective because you're not stripping it down to bare steel. And MES recommends state funding for rehabilitation projects based on these inspection findings, ensuring tanks remain functional and safe. And I put together a capital improvement program and submit that to the agency that is responsible for the tank, like the state park, DNR, and then I submit it over to the Department of Budget Management asking for funding. Anything else? And that's Tuckahoe State Park. So on the left, it's before, right is after. See the beautiful blue of it.
Madam Chair, if I may, real quick, as you might notice, this is her first year doing the tank program, and she does have some enthusiasm and passion in regards to this. There's that. It's kind of interesting because last month we were down at Sandy Point State Park doing a cleanup, and Emily brought Mom out, and we were walking down the beach and cleaning up stuff, and Mom says, I actually recruited Emily back at University of Maryland and brought her in. There you go. But anyway, it was kind of interesting because her mom was still talking about, Emily called me up and she told me she got a job in her field and she's going to be an environmental engineer working on water and wastewater. And the enthusiasm, I'll tell you what, she just told you guys she was an assistant engineer. And she was just promoted to an associate engineer in the last couple of weeks. So the passion and the excitement is there, and I just hope it continues for the next 42 years.
Well, congratulations, Ms. Martinazzi, and thank you very much for the very informative summary of the water tank rehabilitation program that we're currently operating. Thank you. Okay, is there any old business to discuss? Any new business?
Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to update the board that the ad for the deputy director position closed yesterday, and we'll start the process of reviewing. I'll sit down with the HR chief to go over the plan. MES has 98 applicants for the role, so we'll go through that process, and I'll keep the board informed moving forward.
That's terrific news. Our next meeting will be Thursday, June 26th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. There is additionally a Human Resources Committee meeting on Thursday, June 12th, 2025 at 1 p.m. We will be going.
One other thing. I'm sorry.
We will be
I just
going
wanted to remind everyone that I need your evaluations of the executive director sent to me today so I can compile them and get that back out to everyone next week.
Okay, thank you. Did everybody understand, Mr. Witt? For some reason, the sound was interesting. Okay, excellent. We are going into closed session, and from closed session, we will be adjourning the meeting, so we will not be reconvening in open session. The intention of the closed session is to consult with counsel, to obtain legal advice, and to consult with staff consultants and other individuals about pending or potential litigation. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Joes. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. We will see you in closed session after a